Happy 42nd birthday. That was the last thing I saw on my phone screen, just 3 minutes before I received the termination email. It came from the same person who had just handed me a birthday cake. The email, sent at exactly 10:03 a.m. on a Friday, notified me that my employment was terminated, effective immediately, with no severance benefits. The reason? Corporate restructuring. After 17 years working at one of California's largest renewable energy firms, the company was reclaiming all the equity I had slowly built up, thanks to a clause in the contract I had signed in good faith years ago. I nodded, smiled faintly, and said, "Thanks for letting me know. My name is David Miller. I'm 42. I was the head of solar operations. What they conveniently forgot was this. I was the one who built the entire system from scratch." The stale smell of office coffee still lingered in the air, mixing with the steady hum of the ceiling AC. Behind me, the whiteboard still displayed the cue for strategy I had just presented that morning. Charts, numbers, and projections painted an optimistic future that now felt like a cruel joke. Across the table sat Vincent Tran, 45, the new CEO who transferred from Singapore just 8 months ago. Next to him was his assistant, Hannah Wells, the same person I had personally vouched for 3 years ago, the same woman I once saw as a little sister. David, Vincent said with that cold executive tone, "The company has decided not to renew your contract." That sentence, coming from a man I once treated like family, froze the room. My hand was still holding the 10-year service anniversary pen gifted by the former CEO. Vincent's voice trembled ever so slightly, and Hannah couldn't meet my eyes, staring down at the mahogany table like it held all the secrets of the universe. It felt like a lightning strike under a clear sky. My ears rang. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. 17 years. From the days when we were just 8 people in a shared workspace to becoming one of the top solar firms on the West Coast. And now, all gone in a sentence. They were also there to tell me the kicker. My equity, valued at nearly $1.2 million, would be bought back for just 1/10 of its real value. That was the moment everything came into focus. All the strange questions Vincent had asked me in recent months about system security, admin passwords, access tiers, they weren't just curiosity, they were reconnaissance. And the long nights, I was asked to stay late whenever key investors visited. A distraction, even Hannah, suddenly distant, barely speaking to me, avoiding eye contact, was part of it. Back in 2007, I was just a bright-eyed electrical engineering grad from the University of Texas. I joined a scrappy little green energy startup called Solistech, just 8 of us in a cramped office space in downtown San Diego. My job designed the remote control infrastructure for our solar farm systems. At that time, renewable energy was still a niche in the US, barely scratching the surface. I remember countless 3 a.m. debugging sessions with our founder, Mr. Douglas Kane, a brilliant old-school engineer who believed solar power could change the world. He was like a father figure to me. I was his right hand. We'd sit on the roof, drink terrible vending machine coffee, and talk about bringing clean energy to every state. It wasn't just work, it was a mission. Vincent, he was just a quiet intern back then. I taught him everything from the ground up. And Hannah, she was once a nervous junior coordinator, I helped coach into a top-tier operations assistant. I treated them like family, and they used that trust to drive a knife into my back. Over the years, I personally oversaw the development of over 50 solar sites across the western US, my most impactful contribution. A smart switching algorithm that allowed seamless energy distribution and grid balancing. A patented system that helped us win our first major contract with the US Department of Energy. For safety, I had designed a master key system, one line of secure code, known only to me, capable of overriding or controlling all sites remotely. It was a last resort failsafe, built for emergencies. Looking back, there were 3 clear warning signs that I had foolishly ignored. Vincent suddenly asked me to document every detail of our system's operations, under the pretense of training new hires and future-proofing. I shared everything: troubleshooting protocols, internal shortcuts, design logic, even undocumented efficiency. The IT team began requesting admin-level server access, citing new cybersecurity standards. They held endless upgrade meetings, took detailed notes, even recorded walkthroughs. I thought they were just being thorough. Hannah suggested holding regular leadership meetings. Without me, She said it would help younger voices feel empowered. I smiled, proud of how far we'd come. In hindsight, it was all a setup, a slow, calculated strategy to erase me from the very system I had built. 17 years of loyalty, and I was still naive as a first-year intern. Reality hit like a freight train. My October paycheck was cut off immediately. My bank account showed less than $1,300, barely enough to cover this month's rent. My wife Claire was 7 months pregnant. She needed regular checkups, ultrasounds, medication. Our daughter Emily was 12, prepping for high school entrance exams, needing tutoring, needing stability. Now, every expense felt like a ticking bomb. But the worst came from the bank. One more missed mortgage payment, and they'd foreclose on our condo, our home, the place we'd spent 10 years saving for, our safe haven. It felt like someone squeezed the last bit of oxygen out of my lungs. Medical bills piled on top of financial chaos. The chest pain I'd ignored, it worsened. A visit to the ER confirmed stress-induced heart strain. I needed monthly monitoring. $120 per visit, migraines started attacking me from morning till night. I couldn't think straight, let alone job hunt. I began making lists. What could I sell? My motorcycle? My watch? Even my wedding ring sat on the table under harsh lamplight one night while Claire slept beside me. Unaware of the growing storm, I sat on the edge of our bed at 3 a.m., listening to her steady breathing, watching Emily's chest rise and fall in the next room. The silence was crushing. The room was dark, but inside my head, it was darker. 17 years of my life. And now I was here. Jobless, broke, buried in debt, with a baby on the way. And that's when the thought crystallized. I have nothing left to lose. And that makes me the most dangerous kind of man to people like them. At 5 a.m., I sat alone on our tiny apartment balcony, cradling a cup of black coffee and watching the city slowly wake up. The sky shifted from slate to gold as sunbeams stretched across the skyline. No rage, no outbursts, just silence and clarity. They thought they had buried me. What they didn't know was, they'd just freed me. Freed me from politeness, from corporate loyalty, from the need to protect anyone's reputation but my family's. I started assessing my true assets, 17 years of hands-on experience in solar infrastructure, a deep understanding of operational systems and federal regulations, intimate knowledge of every person, every password, every pressure point in that company. And then my ace. A personal backup hard drive I had kept out of habit, packed with internal emails, financial reports, unreleased contracts, and encrypted voice recordings. Harmless at the time, now a legal goldmine. At 6 a.m., my phone rang. "David, I just heard." "This is insane," said a familiar, fatherly voice. "Douglas Kane, the company's retired founder. What they're doing is outrageous. Tell me what you need. I've got your back." Douglas was the only board member not under Vincent's influence, the only one who knew exactly what I had built and what I was capable of. "Doug," I replied calmly, "I know exactly what to do, and I'm going to do it by the book. No drama, no revenge fantasy. Just the truth and the law." They wanted to play dirty. I was going to fight clean, with evidence, contracts, and a clock that was now ticking for them. By sunrise, I was no longer a victim. I was an operator, using my personal master key. A secure access credential built into the system architecture by me years ago, I logged into the company's network from my home computer. According to my employment contract, I legally retained system access for 30 days. Post-termination for handover purposes, they had fired me too fast to remember that clause. And then came the first bombshell. Dozens of internal emails revealed the company had been planning a leadership optimization strategy for months. Vincent had written to minor shareholders about removing high-cost executives in favor of younger, cost-efficient talent ahead of a major international deal. I printed every thread, notarized the lot by noon. Then I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Alex Fong, former college classmate, now a top-tier employment lawyer in Los Angeles, specializing in wrongful termination and equity theft. "I've got evidence," I told him. He didn't even hesitate. "Bring it. I'll look through everything pro bono." Together, we combed through the fine print of my contract. A critical discovery: the clause that allowed forced buyback of my shares only applied if the termination was lawful and justified. If it wasn't, the shares and my rights stood. Then came the second revelation. While scanning system logs, I noticed multiple unauthorized access attempts to the company's core server from an IP address in Singapore. During the exact dates Vincent had traveled there, each access was at night. Each downloaded sensitive operational data, major security violation. But it wasn't just sabotage. It was fraud. Internal financial records showed drastic discrepancies between what was reported to investors and what was submitted to U.S. tax authorities. Millions in underreported revenue, inflated equipment costs, and signs of offshore funneling. And buried in the contract logs, I found the smoking gun. Vincent had created a shell company in Singapore, Green Horizon Solutions. He signed bloated outsourcing deals with it on behalf of our U.S. firm, effectively paying himself 3 times the market rate through offshore laundering. I had everything. Encrypted backups, signed contracts, email trails. Every file stored in 3 different locations, under 3 different aliases. The billion-dollar deal with Mitsubishi Electric was scheduled to be signed the next morning, and I knew exactly when and how to strike. The deal with Mitsubishi Electric, a $1.2 billion landmark contract, was set to be signed at exactly 8 a.m. the next day, the company's biggest milestone, my final leverage. If they went through with it, my rightful dividend as a shareholder would have been enormous. But they wanted me gone before that payout hit. So I did what any systems architect would do. I wrote a timed script. Using the master key I had built into the solar management platform, I scheduled an automatic shutdown of all operations across the Western grid. The message was short, clinical, and terrifying. Urgent security patch required. System temporarily offline to resolve a critical vulnerability preventing external breaches. Full functionality will resume following update. Legit, professional, untraceable. I also sent an email to Vincent. Vincent, after sleeping on everything, I realized the company must have its reasons. I want the transition to be as smooth and professional as possible. I'm fully committed to assisting in any way to ensure the systems remain stable during this important time for the company. It was bait, and it worked like a charm, Vincent replied immediately. Thank you, David. I appreciate your maturity and understanding. Let's make this transition as seamless as possible. Even Hannah called me later, tearful, apologizing, said she never wanted to betray me, but her father's medical debt had left her desperate. Vincent had promised her a stake in the company if she helped push me out. She sounded relieved. They all did. That night, the 2 of them were spotted at a rooftop bar near the office, clinking glasses over imported whiskey, celebrating what they thought was a clean victory. They had exactly 24 hours left to enjoy the illusion. Boardroom, 12th floor, 8 a.m. sharp, polished oak table, leather chairs, panoramic view of downtown Los Angeles. The morning sun cut across the glass and hit Vincent square in the face, forcing him to squint and awkwardly shift his seat. The tension in the room was thick, just minutes before the signing ceremony with Mitsubishi Electric. Everything collapsed. The company's central monitoring system suddenly flashed red. Every solar station across California, Nevada, and Arizona had gone offline. Power production charts flatlined. Connection warnings blinked like alarm bells. And then came the siren's sharp mechanical tones from laptops across the boardroom. "What's going on with your systems?" asked Mr. Tanaka, Mitsubishi's senior director. He was calm, but his tone carried weight, impeccably dressed, no smile. "Our dashboards show all production nodes offline for the past 2 hours. Should we be worried about the $1.2 billion agreement we're about to sign?" Silence. Vincent was drenched in sweat, pale as chalk. He grabbed his phone and frantically called IT, his voice cracking. No one had a solution. Every recovery attempt failed. This must be a temporary glitch," he stammered. "Just a hiccup. We'll fix it immediately." And that's when I walked in. Black leather briefcase, navy tie, gray tailored suit. Calm, calculated, deliberate. "Good morning," I said, like I'd just stepped into a Monday status meeting. "I heard there's been a system issue." Every head in the room turned. Hannah looked like she'd seen a ghost. "David," she whispered, then stood up, voice shaking. I'm sorry." Vincent promised me equity. He said if I helped push you out, he'd clear my father's hospital debt. I didn't know it would come to this. I didn't want to hurt you. She was crying now, fully unraveling in front of everyone. Mr. Tanaka raised an eyebrow. "Can someone please explain what's happening?" I calmly opened my briefcase, revealing color-coded folders, notarized documents, and my personal laptop. "Mr. Tanaka, members of the board," I said, "what I'm about to present concerns not only the current outage, but the very integrity of this company." I pulled out the first stack. "Let's start with the taxes." I laid out the first report, a full-color financial breakdown, comparing tax filings and internal profit statements from the last 5 years. "This company," I said clearly, "has avoided paying millions in federal taxes through a dual reporting scheme, fabricated depreciation, inflated overseas expenses, and false invoices." I turned to Vincent, and the orchestrator, him. I produced the next folder. Signed contracts between Solistec and Green. Horizon Solutions, Vincent's secret shell company registered in Singapore. Vincent created this company offshore. Then he signed inflated service contracts with it, essentially funneling company profits into his own pockets, 3 times above market rates. Gasps. Mr. Tanaka leaned forward, his eyes sharpening. "Here are the wire transfers bank records showing the money trail from Solistec to Singapore and right back to Vincent's private account." I let the documents speak for themselves. "And just to be clear," I continued, "this wasn't just unethical. It's illegal. All this was submitted this morning at 9 a.m. to the IRS, the City Attorney's Office, and the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit." You could hear a pin drop. Then I leaned in, looked Vincent in the eyes, and delivered the final blow. "You have 30 minutes to decide. Either restore my full position, compensate every cent of damages, and return my equity at full market value, or face up to 10 years in federal prison and multi-million-dollar fines." And right on cue, the door opened. Douglas Kane entered calm and commanding, with legal papers in hand. "I represent 16% of shareholder votes," he said. "Effective immediately, I call for an emergency board session to suspend Vincent Tran and initiate a vote of no confidence." Vincent was pale, sweating through his dress shirt. I'll comply with all demands," he said in a hoarse voice. "I'll restore David's position, return the shares, offer full restitution." Mr. Tanaka finally stood. "Mitsubishi Electric values transparency and trust. One more incident like this, and the partnership will be reviewed thoroughly." I opened my laptop, typed in the master key, and ran the reset command. 4 minutes later, every system returned to green. "All stations are back online," I said, closing the lid. "Production has resumed. Contract obligations are intact, but the damage, at least to Vincent's career, was done." The outcome surpassed even my highest expectations. Not only was I reinstated as head of solar operations, I was promoted to vice president of engineering, the second highest position in the company. My equity was fully restored, revalued at current market prices. The compensation package covered every cent of my financial loss, from unpaid salary to emotional damages. I paid off the mortgage, cleared our medical debt, bought time to breathe. More importantly, I was assigned direct oversight of the Mitsubishi Electric Partnership, our company's largest contract to date. The agreement listed my name explicitly as the non-replaceable technical lead. For the next 5 years, projected bonuses from the project alone, 8 figures of milestones were met, and we were already ahead of schedule. As for Vincent, demoted to executive assistant, salary slashed by 2/3. He was required to repay the full amount of his offshore earnings, dissolve the shell company, and submit to quarterly audits. His exit from the company, delayed by 3 years under a restitution clause. Hannah stayed, with my support. I personally requested she be transferred to the admin division under probation. She accepted the lower salary and completed ethics training without complaint. I even helped her secure an internal hardship loan to help pay for her father's treatment. We were rebuilding something better based on truth, not memory. 6 months later, everything had changed. Our partnership with Mitsubishi was thriving. Several solar sites had gone live and were generating steady income. At home, Claire had given birth to a healthy baby boy. Emily had been accepted into an advanced STEM academy. We were stronger, calmer, happier. My health recovered, no more chest pain, no more migraines. I had adopted a strict morning workout routine, a clean diet, and regular sleep. Inside the company, the mood shifted. Vincent, once arrogant and dismissive, now listened more than he spoke. We had long, honest conversations. He even admitted he had underestimated the cost of betrayal and the strength of consequences. "I saw you as a threat," he said once. "Now I see you as the backbone." As for Hannah, she worked hard to rebuild trust. She never missed a report, never avoided a tough conversation. Slowly, we became allies again this time, with boundaries and honesty. But the most important lessons weren't professional. They were personal. Lesson 1. Never trust blindly, not even those who feel like family. Loyalty without verification is vulnerability. Lesson 2. Protect yourself. Keep records. Know your rights. Don't rely on fairness. Build safeguards. Lesson 3. Be patient. Think long-term. Strategy beats emotion every single time. And finally, in the modern workplace, technical skills alone aren't enough. You need legal knowledge, leadership acumen, and the backbone to stand tall when others try to cut you down. Looking back, I no longer resent what happened, because the betrayal gave birth to clarity. The downfall gave rise to discipline, and the fight taught me that truth, when pursued calmly, relentlessly, and legally, always wins in the end. Today, as I sit in my corner office, looking out at the skyline, I helped electrify. I'm not angry. I'm grateful. Grateful I survived the fall. Grateful I never stopped believing in what I built. And more than anything, grateful I finally became the kind of leader I had always admired.